Hello and welcome to The Walk-In. Apologies for being away for a little while. Thank you for the new subscribers. So, as ever, please drop a subscribe. It will help us greatly. Thank you so much. I think the most interesting story, well, the many interesting stories going on at the moment, but I think the exploding pages in Lebanon are among the top of those stories right now. So we're going to get into that just a little bit today. So, as a bit of background, I'm sure you have heard by now that Israel recently conducted what seemingly a covert operation targeting Hezbollah operatives in Lebanon using explosive pages. So people just wandering around doing their business with their 90s technology. And presumably this was a concerted effort to get around targeting of cell phones, which of course is much easier these days, particularly from intelligence agencies having this surveillance technology and military. So Hezbollah have been using pages. And we suddenly get a spate of CCTV videos of pages going off in supermarkets, in town squares, and injuring many people and killing, I think, at least 30 people at this point. But obviously those numbers do change when something like this happens, including a couple of children. But as more news come out, it seems to be a covert operation by Israel. And this includes planting explosives within the devices. Obviously, there was the thought at first by many that it was potentially lithium batteries being manipulated somehow to explode, but the size of the explosions seemed to lean towards more explosives being planted within them, and after some investigation that does seem to be the case. And this operation has potentially been planned for a long time, which involves manufacturing and distributing modified devices that explode when used. And the beeper had gone off to make sure people get out of their pocket and all the rest of it. These attacks did result in significant casualties, and there was a strategic aim in this operation appears to be to incapacitate key Hezbollah operatives and disrupt their communications. The use of supply chain interdiction, where Israel allegedly created a network of shell companies to distribute this explosive device, marks a novel and devastating tactic in espionage. I don't think shell companies are novel in terms of espionage. There's plenty of cases where this has seemed to be the case. However, this kind of tactic, it does seem to be quite unprecedented. So potentially involve the setting up of multiple shell companies by Israel to manufacture and distribute the explosive pages used in the attacks. One of the key shell companies identified was BAC Consulting, based in Hungary. This company posed as an international pager producer and was responsible for creating the modified pages that contained explosive batteries. The pages were labelled as products from Gold Apollo, a legitimate Taiwan-based company, but the actual manufacturing was done by BAC Consulting. And this allowed Israel to infiltrate Hezbollah's supply chain without raising suspicion. The devices were distributed to Hezbollah operatives over several months, with the explosive pages being triggered remotely to cause the coordinated blasts. This operation highlights the sophisticated use of supply chain interdiction in espionage, where Israel created a network of shell companies to conceal the identities of intelligence officers and ensure the modified devices reached their targets. And there are questions about the legality of this, of course, and the legality of having a shell company. That's legal. They are often used for legitimate business purposes, but obviously if a shell company is being used for activities such as manufacturing explosive devices for covert operations, it would likely violate local laws in terms of Hungarian law and international law. In this case, BAC Consulting was involved in producing and distributing the devices that would be engaging in illegal activities. And in addition to this, there's also been a case where walkie-talkies were also implanted with explosives. And we might bring you more on that later on, but likely in a very similar manner. Supply chain interdiction seem to be the tactics here. So we can go a little deeper into what we know about the firm linked to these pages. So this is from BBC Verify. The Lebanese government says 12 people, including 2 children, were killed. Obviously, this is an earlier report. We know by now it's more than that. So BBC Verify looked into a firm called BAC Consulting, which has been linked to the production. And a short while after the explosions took place on Tuesday, unverified images of 2 damaged pages surfaced on social media, and these are where we see the links to Gold Apollo in Taiwan, who have come out and obviously said, look, this isn't us, it's our technology, but it looks like this is licensed to be manufactured elsewhere. It is not known whether or not BAC has any connections to other companies or people. It is in Budapest in Hungary. Limited knowledge of trading information. According to records, BAC had a net turnover of 256 million Hungarian forint. A company brochure published on LinkedIn lists 8 organisations BAC claims to have worked with, including the European Commission and UK Department of International Development. BAC's website listed one person as its chief exec and founder. I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, Cristiana Barsini Arcidiacono. Now, if I've butchered that, please direct complaints to somewhere else, because it's the first time I did attempt to read that out. It does not appear to mention any other employees. BBC Verified Land, she graduated from the University of Catania with a physics degree in 2001. According to her LinkedIn profile, she also holds PhDs from 2 London universities. But apparently she has been contacted by NBC in the US, who confirmed her company worked with Gold Apollo. When asked about the pages and explosions, she said, "I don't make the pages, I'm just the intermediate. I think you got it wrong." So whatever's happening here, obviously just one person linked to a company. It doesn't mean that they are involved necessarily, but it looks like at some point on the supply chain, in the factory, somewhere in the logistics, these pages did have explosives implanted by them, likely by Israel, likely for this specific purpose. Obviously, then you get into, as well as the legality and ethics of it, you need to get into how can you be sure that these pages are, you're not going to be sat next to a child or on a plane coming into land, people turning on all the devices on. I think a lot more damage could have been made by these of non-Hezbollah combatants. It's an extremely targeted attack, but, as I said, could be set next to an old man on a bench. So lots of questions for this to come. I'm not sure if Israel have even accepted responsibility for this, but I mean, we're talking about a high-level intelligence operation here, and it does seem to be that they likely have a good chunk of involvement there. So that's what we know about the company so far. What do you think? What do you think about setting up shell companies? And obviously, on one side, you could say, they're responsible for terror attacks. On the other, you could say, but you're also using other countries' businesses on cities, essentially, to manufacture these devices. Were Hungary in on it? You would think maybe not, given their links to Russia. It's a very complicated picture here. But what do you think about this? Do you think it's justified? Do you think it's not justified? Obviously, there are going to be strong opinions on both sides. But from an objective point of view, it's a very interesting and fascinating military intelligence operation, and that's why it piqued my interest, and hopefully it piqued yours too. All right, that will do for today. We will be back with a bit more regularity. As I said, thanks for the few new subscribers that have joined recently, and if you do want to drop us a sub and a like and all that stuff, it will help as the channel grows. As I said before, we'll be able to put a lot more effort into it, but particularly if we get more subscribers, that's how YouTube runs things, and that will greatly help us. And I'm certainly looking forward to making more videos on intelligence agencies around the world, and some more, particularly on British intelligence agencies. So we'll start getting into some interesting topics. I'm trying to keep up with some current affairs stuff like this, but yeah, I think there'll be time now to get into some of those other interesting topics, which hopefully you have an interest in too. All right, well, whenever you listen to this, hope you have a great day. I always think about dinner. Have a great dinner. And thank you very much. And we'll be back very soon.